Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel. This is the podcast where I teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. So today I've got to share some news with you, and it's tough. About 6 months ago, I made a really tough decision. And then about 48 hours ago, I completed and I made that tough decision actually happen. And there's no real way to sugarcoat this or to beat around the bush or anything like that. So I just want to share with you all that as of 2 days ago, Elliot has gone into permanent retirement. Elliot, as you know, if you've met me anytime over the last 6 years, Elliot has been my yellow lab seeing-eye dog. He and I were placed together in January of 2017 at the Seeing Eye in Morristown, New Jersey. And after 6 years of faithful service, just a day or two ago, I decided to let him live the good life of a retired dog after everything that he has done over the last 6 years. So I want to give you a little information about how this happened, why this happened, and like where we go from here. And specifically, I want to let you know that this is going to be today. I'm making the announcement about Elliot, and then we'll have a couple of that go a little more into depth about how the process is made to make a match between a person and a dog and what that training process looks like. But today I just want to give you a little bit of information. So be sure to go subscribe to catch those later episodes. But today people ask the reason, well, how do you know that it was time for Elliot to retire? And part of this is because Elliot is my fourth seeing eye dog. I've had 4 dogs, so 3 other times I have had to detect what was going on in their working behavior that made me think, okay, this dog is ready to hang up the harness and to embrace the great resignation. And with Elliot, about 6 months ago, maybe even more than that, one day I was walking into a restaurant, I'm pretty sure it was a Denny's, and walking up to the front door of the restaurant, walking up the concrete path up to the door, and about 8 or 10 feet from the door, Elliot decided to put his head down and he put his body in a position, what we call balking, much like balking in baseball. Elliot balked at going any further. He did not want to go up to the door to actually go in the restaurant. And there was only about 6 or 8 feet between the door and where we were standing. And so because of the fact that I was with the hotness, I dropped the harness handle. I used sighted guide, so I grabbed onto her arm and we walked the rest of the way up to the door. Otherwise, Elliot would have refused to go. That instance happened a couple of more times over the summer, and that was whenever I started to really put it together that his time as my working seeing eye dog was drawing to an end. So in addition to making the decision to retire him, then the decision also has to be, where does he go? The seeing eye, where Elliot was trained and all of my dogs have been trained, they have such a thorough background check and interview process that they know for people like me, they say, hey, Marcus, whenever it's time for Elliot to retire, when you make that decision, you can do with the dog what you think is best. So Marcus, if you want to keep him as a pet, you can do it. If you want to give him to a friend and they can have now a pet, you can do that. If you want to give him back to the seeing eye, we will go find him a forever home. I've always wanted to make sure that my dogs were going someplace that they were known and loved. And it was no different with Elliot. So Elliot, as of 2 days ago, retired, and he's been adopted by a couple, Rose and Michael, who live in South Bend, Indiana. Rose is one of my colleagues. She's one of my colleagues at the Ruth Hillebrand Center for Compassionate Care in Medicine at Notre Dame. And she has lots of animals. They have lots of animals, dogs, cats, several cats. And they also treat their animals like absolute royalty. And I know that Elliot is not going to be any different. Elliot has already adapted. He's already made friends with their dog, with two of their dogs and their cats. And he is, from all reports that we've gotten back so far, adapting well into retirement. Is it easy? No. It's awful. It's freaking awful. It's terrible when you lose a dog. Anybody who's ever had a pet and lost a pet knows that it's terrible. I didn't lose Elliot, though. I made the choice to give him a great retired life. However, there is still a loss, and that's something that both Marveline and I are dealing with right now. It's a lot to be back in our home, and I don't have a dog to feed anymore. I don't have a dog to take out first thing in the morning or to let out at night before I go to bed. I don't have a dog that comes up to my room and nuzzles me while I'm sitting at my desk. I don't have a dog that has a schedule to keep, a feeding schedule to keep. And I'm trying to be present to the absence of Elliot. I think that's only fair, that I should allow myself to be open and present to his absence. And that's what we're trying to do. It's hard. It's an adjustment. And I even have to say, I feel some sense of maybe guilt for retiring Elliot, because even though he's my dog, he kind of belongs to all of us, right? Everybody who's ever loved him, everybody who's ever been amused by Elliot's antics while he's on stage loves him. Marveline and I were talking on the way up to South Bend. People see him sitting on the airplane, and he makes people happy, right? He makes people happy, like, oh, puppy. And that's not going to be happening now. So it's going to be a while. I'm planning on going back to the CNI sometime in the next few months. But in this time right now, I'm just trying to stay present to it. And Elliot, boy, what a life he has led with me. It's truly remarkable when I think about Elliot's life over the last 6 years and what he's done. He's done things that most dogs could never even dream of. Literally, I think Elliot has been with me to at least 30 states, maybe more. Elliot was with me on stage when I spoke at the UN. Elliot has been with me in places as far away as Seattle to Miami, Maine to San Diego, north, south, east, west, all over this country. Elliot has been in more airlines and more scrunched up in more airline seats on the floor than you can even imagine. There's been more airports, more hotels, more restaurants, more airport restrooms than you can ever even think of. And he has done all of it so faithfully, without complaining, of course. He's done it happily, sweetly. And after 6 years of such intense work, we're just trying to be present. We're just trying to be present. So if you have known and loved Elliot, we'd take any kind of good energy or prayers that you have laying around as we navigate what life is like without him around here. We've done this before. We can do it again. It's never fun, but the way I've always explained it, that retiring a dog is kind of like taking your kid off to college for the first time. Is it sad? Yes, you're going to miss your kid, but you also know it's the very, very best thing for him or her. And so for Elliot, I'm going to miss him. I already do. And yet I know it's the best thing for him, and that's what we do for those that we love. We give them what they need. And I just want to thank Elliot, not that he's listening to podcasts, but I want to publicly state my appreciation and my gratitude for everything that he did for me over the last 6 years, and just thank him for such great work. Thank him for so much fun, and wish him well in his retirement. Again, please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the upcoming episodes on what comes next for my next dog in training, how this works, and of course, for the big reveal sometime down the road whenever you get to meet the new pup, which I am in the meantime calling dog number 5, because that's what this dog will be. Again, thank you all so much for loving Elliot so much over these last 6 years. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for giving me the space today to say these things about Elliot and to honor the amazing life that he's had with me. Thank you all again so much for tuning into this episode of Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel. This is the podcast where I teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. Thank you.